Hey there, and welcome to Basket Weaving with Textile Indie. If you're new here, my name is Brittany. I'm a basket weaver and fiber artist, and I teach basketry here on YouTube in multiple styles. In this video, we're going to be starting a rattan market basket using a D handle. I am going to go over the steps in a three-part series, building the base of the basket in this video. In the next video, we'll talk about weaving the walls, and in the third part, we will go over finishing off the rim. So be sure to check the description below for the upcoming videos once they're launched, and check back regularly for more basket weaving content. This is a market basket style. It's very classic style of basket, and it works really well in a variety of different situations. It's a great project basket if you want to throw in a knitting project or embroidery or whatever small hand project you're working in. It's also great to take to the farmer's market and get your weekly produce. It's great as a decorative basket or a gift basket, and it's one of my favorite designs. It's actually one of the first styles of baskets that I ever wove, and I still have the very first basket that I wove when I was 10 years old in this style. So I'm super excited to be sharing this here on the channel. And if you want the full pattern for this basket with all of the cut lengths and material instructions and that sort of thing, you can find in the description below, there's a link to the instruction manual as well as our Textile Indie Collective, where we have a full video workshop on how to weave this basket with detailed instructions and all of the cut information. When you cut stakes for a basket, make sure to use a measuring tape for each of the stakes. I like to tape this to my work table using just a little bit of masking tape or whatever you have available, and then take a piece of reed and line it up with the end of the measuring tape and measure it out and then cut it. I also add a center mark by finding that point and leaving a little pencil hash mark on there so that I know where the center is. This makes sure that you have an even amount of length on both sides of your base so that your walls can be the height that is necessary for the design. Now, the reason I use a measuring tape for each piece rather than taking a piece of reed and measuring a new piece of reed off of that is inevitably when you use a piece of reed to measure another piece of reed, you end up with shorter and shorter stakes. So you end up with a piece that's maybe 2 inches shorter than the rest of your stakes, or 2 inches shorter than the design calls for. And that's going to dictate how tall your basket can be, because you can only go as tall as your shortest stake. So as we get into the weaving the basket, that's probably going to make more sense. But for now, just know, try to measure each stake out with the measuring tape. Using the measuring tape on the table is ideal because it's a little bit easier to control. The other way to do it would be to hold the measuring tape in your hand, run this along the length, cut the length, and then mark the center. Now, for this basket, I am going to direct you to the instruction manual we have on our website, Textile Indie, for all of the cut lengths. There's a lot of pieces to cut and a lot of numbers to keep track of. So find that instruction manual for purchase on our website to get the complete pattern for this, or make up your own measurements and follow along with the design if you prefer. To create the base for this basket, go ahead and set aside your shorter set of stakes and grab the longer set, including all the different widths of pieces. Get them wet in your water bin and then tap off the excess water on your workspace. You can also set aside your D handle. We're going to need this in just a minute, but for now you won't need it. Now, with your set of longer stakes, we're going to take the wider pieces and put them to the outside and alternate between a wide piece and the middle range piece. So we have 3 sizes here. We have the wide, the medium, and the small. We're going to go wide, medium, and then I'm going to use my spoke weight to hold this down right here so I can start tucking these under. Now I'll go back to wide, alternating between the wide and the medium, and wide, like so. Now we are left with all of our narrowest or thinnest pieces. So under the wide pieces, I'm going to take these narrow pieces, and this is flat oval, so the rounded side I want facing down so that it's going to be to the outside of the basket. And these ones I didn't put center marks on, so I'm just going to line up the ends here and then tuck this under, replacing my spoke weight so that it's generally under that piece of wider reed. And again, under here, take this, slide this under. We can adjust the placement of this piece of reed once we start to weave. We just need to get it tucked under there for now. So one of these narrow pieces goes under each wider piece, and I'm just lifting up the spoke weight and holding these down with my arm while I replace the spoke weight so that it holds all those pieces down, like so. So now these things poking out, that's totally okay. They will stretch out and fit into their proper place as we start to weave. Now we're going to take the handle, and I want you to go to the outside edge here, this wider piece, and the handle is going to sit on top of that. And then we're going to take the medium piece, lift this up. So we're going over one, under this stake. We're going to go over this stake, under this stake, and I'm just gliding this through, or sliding these stakes through, so that then I can set this into the middle. And I want the mark, that center mark, to line up with the middle of the handle. So lining up to the middle here, and these outer pieces should sit to the outside edge of the handle, right along the edge there. Now you can adjust the spacing a little bit if you want, so that they fit a little bit more evenly into this space. We're using the width of the handle as the reference for the width of our basket. So we want these outer pieces to fit those outer edges, and then these inner pieces to be spaced evenly within that space. Now we're going to weave the stakes on either side of the handle. I'm going to leave my spoke weight right here on one side, on the right side of the basket, and weave the base to the left side of the handle. And so grab your second set of shorter stakes, get them wet in your water bin, and then tap them off. And now in this direction, we're going to take a wider piece and one of the narrowest pieces and layer this again so that the rounded side of this narrow piece is facing down and we can see the mark on our wider piece. And now we're going to weave this into the basket opposite of the handle. So we treat the handle as if it is a stake. So anywhere that we went under the handle, we're going to go over our next stake. So making sure to weave opposite of that handle piece. And I'm weaving over, under, weaving the wide piece and their narrow piece together so that the wider piece is on top. And then finding this center stake right here, we're going to use this center stake to line up the center mark, and then scooch this in towards the handle a bit so that we have just a little bit of space between the handle and this new stake. Next, we're going to take one of the medium widths and weave opposite of this previous stake. So where I was under, now I'm going to go over, and then under, over, under, over, under, over. Line up the center mark underneath this center stake here, and then slide this in a bit. And then take one of the wider pieces and one of the narrowest pieces, layer them once again, rounded side down for that flat oval piece, so it will end up looking like this, layered on top. Now we're going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Slide the center piece or center mark onto that center piece, and then scooch this in. And then we have our last medium width. We're going to weave this in, making sure we follow that opposites pattern, like so. Now I'll switch sides with my spoke weight, and I'm going to weave this last few stakes into this side. So again, we're going to repeat the wide width and the narrow width layered together. Weave opposite of what the handle is, just like we did for that first side. Slide it into place. And now a medium width. And our last wide width with the overlay. We'll weave this in. Make sure you get all your pieces, your layers woven in there. And my last medium piece, is the last stake in this base. So weave that into the middle, make sure the center mark matches up, and weave it in place. Again, if your pieces are curving around, don't worry too much right now. They're going to want to move and not sit where they're supposed to. They will adjust as we work the walls of the basket and start to shift the base around. So just get your pieces woven into place where they need to be, and then we can make adjustments. When we wove the base of this basket, we just put the pieces into place and haven't organized the pieces to make sure that they're spaced evenly. Now we're going to do that, and that is called truing. So we're going to true the base by taking our cloth measuring tape, and there are two directions that we need to check: the short distance, or the width of the handle, and we're going to use the handle width to be our reference for how wide that needs to be. So from the outside of your handle to the opposite edge, that's the width of your basket in the shorter direction, so, or the depth of your basket. So take that measurement and come out to the edge, and you can push in these pieces so that they match the width of the handle. So I'm just pushing in these outer pieces. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This one needs to be pulled out a little bit, like so. Now the width of the basket in the longer direction, we're going to line up the measuring tape, and for this basket I'm going to do 12 inches. You can mess around with this and make some adjustments if you want to make it slightly narrower or wider if you would like. Just note that that is going to change the length of your stakes, and so you may end up making a slightly shorter basket. For this, I'm going to take the 6-inch point and line that up with the center of this handle, and then this end, extend that stake out till it meets the end, and then the other side at the 12-inch point, I'm going to do the same thing. Extend this out till it meets the 12. I'll do the same thing on the other side, matching up the 6-inch with the middle of the handle, and then making adjustments. Just because the reed can have curves in it sometimes, and we want a nice rectangle before we lock stitched this in place with twining. So we make some adjustments until we're happy with the overall look. And then once the perimeter pieces, the pieces around the outside, are all lined up, then we can come in and make adjustments to the interior pieces by moving these around slightly so that the spaces between the stakes are more equidistant, or these squares in between the stakes are more even. Once you've evened that out and you're happy with the layout of your base, you've trued it up, you're ready to move on to the next step. For twining, you're going to want round reed. If you're using our Textile Indie basket kit, you can pull out the round reed out of your kit and get that wet. This reed I like to soak for about 30 seconds to make sure that it's nice and pliable. We're going to be doing a lot of manipulation of the reed, so I like it to be nice and tender so that we can get around those corners without it breaking, which can be quite frustrating. So while we're waiting for that to soak, go ahead and grab 2 of your 2-inch metal clamps. I like these guys for the twining because they have pretty strong springs and nice mouths that can catch the reed and keep it from slipping while you're working. If you're following along with our instruction manual, I just want to note that in the instruction manual I have an alternative way to get started where we create a loop to start the twining. In this tutorial, I wanted to go over a different way where we start with 2 different pieces, because sometimes you can't find a piece of reed that's long enough to fold in half to get around the perimeter of your basket, and you'll have to use 2 pieces. Sometimes when you do the fold technique like I've shown in the manual, the reed can break at that fold point. So I like to give alternate ways to finish the twining. So both are correct. You can choose which one you want to use. So for this, I'm going to cut my piece in half. So I have a piece that goes around the perimeter once with some overlap. These are nice long pieces, so I have lots of extra. And then scoot your base towards you without moving the stakes around too much so that you can orient yourself along the edge furthest from you. I like to work on this edge furthest from me and then work towards me. It just helps stay oriented and helps me see what I'm doing. So for this base, what I'm going to do is count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, lift up the 4th stake and take one of my pieces of round reed, tuck it under that 4th stake and onto the 3rd stake in, like so. Now I'm going to clamp this on top here. And then I'm going to go count in 3, 1, 2, 3, go under the third stake and back to the second stake. And then I'll clamp this on top of this second stake in right here, like so. And I just moved my outer stake, so I need to readjust that. So now you have one clamped on top here, one clamped on top here. You're going to put the ends, pull these through the handle here, put the ends in your left hand or your non-weaving hand if you're working left-handed. Put it in your right hand. We're going to take these and we're looking at this fourth stake in. This is our working stake. So from there, we're going to take this piece that's on top and bring it to the outside of the handle. The piece that's underneath the fourth stake is going to come inside the handle. We're going to pull this through. And now we have a piece on the outside of the handle and a piece inside the handle encircling the base of our D handle. Now we've incorporated that into our twining, treated it as a stake, and we're going to move on to this next stake. So now the piece inside the handle is going to come out and around the outside or underneath this next stake in line, and then return it to your resting hand, so your hand's on top of your work. And now this piece that's coming to the top of this stake here, the one we just went under, is going to come under the following stake and then back to our left hand or our resting hand. And again, the piece that's on top of this stake we just worked on comes under the next stake and then back to your resting hand. Between stitches, make sure to snuggle that up nice and close so that the twining sits right up against the edge of the pieces. If you did the cross stitch napkin basket, I went over in detail how to do the twining. You can reference that video. I'll put it up here in the eye and in the description below. The twining key to watch out for is that there's a twist in between each set of stakes. If that twist is there, then it ensures that you are completing the twining correctly and not just weaving in parallel where you have two stripes of weaving. You're making sure that they switch positions and twist. So when you come to a corner, bring that one that's on top underneath, and then the corner is slightly different because instead of doing the one that's on top first, we do the one that's underneath first. So this guy we're going to gently fold by pressing this corner piece down with our finger, allow that to curve around and create a slight crease in that round reed, and then back to our resting hand. And then the one that's on top comes under this next stake, and we create a little bit of a crease in the corner with that piece to ensure that it's nice and snug. We don't want too much reed poking out in this corner, or when we bring up the walls, it's going to be a bubble. We want just enough that we can curve around that corner, make a nice tight corner without it breaking. As you are working, these pieces are going to twist up behind you. So if you bring your finger between the two and you pull through, you can bring that twist out and untangle them a bit. I would do that about every 2 to 3 wraps to keep it from getting too tangled or too twisted until we meet where we started. I'm going to rotate my basket around so I'm looking at this the same way I started. And then at this point you can take your clamps off because those round reeds aren't going to move. Bring your round reed back to the top of your basket, curve around this corner, like so, and then we're going to do one more stitch, so we go under one more, like so. We've curved around, and now we've met our ends, so we're going to take the basket shears, and this end we're going to cut to the far edge, furthest away on this second stake, and this next one on the third stake furthest away, like so. So now these two ends crisscross in the base here, like so, and they meet the ends where we started. So I have an end here and here, an end here and here. After you've twined the perimeter of the basket, it's time to upset the stakes, which is to fold the stakes upright so that they start to train to stand straight up so that we can create the walls of the basket. So grab your spray bottle and spray the perimeter right along where we just did the twining around the outside or the inside of the basket, which is what we're looking at right now. And then flip this up and do the outside of the basket as well to make sure we catch that flat oval reed in the overlay pieces. Give that a few seconds to start to soak in. When we fold, the reed can have a tendency to start cracking, and so to avoid that, allow it to soak up that moisture so it's nice and pliable, and then come in with one hand, set that on top of your base, and we'll start to gently fold these upright. And we're doing both the thicker piece and the narrow piece in one movement, and then the medium piece is by itself. So we'll go around, move slowly and gently, but firmly fold all the way flat. So we're doing a 180-degree fold flat against the base. You want to move slowly and listen for cracking, because if there's any cracking, you want to re-wet it. A little bit of cracking is okay. Cracking that goes halfway through the reed or more means that you're going to need to switch out a new stake. And I have a video on switching out new stakes here in the reference info below this video, so go ahead and watch that if you do have that occur. So upset all the way around your base, and then you're ready to move on to the next part of the basket. Check the description below for the instruction manual and other resources for this basket, as well as our shop Textile Indie, where we sell all of the basketry materials and tools that I'm using in this series. You can also check out the cross-stitch napkin basket, which is my previous series on weaving a napkin basket or a square basket. As you upset your stakes, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel to get more basketry content. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, check out this video for more basketry content, and I'll see you in episode 2 of this series next week. Happy weaving. Bye.